Hi, my name is Jennifer Janacek, and I am the Director of Content Strategy for Sound Wisdom. And we are here today with Meridith Elliott Powell, author of the new book, Thrive, Strategies to Turn Uncertainty to Competitive Advantage, which is a book that, goodness, we all need after 2020, but as we'll discuss, really you need it anytime because uncertainty is something that recurs. And so, it's important that we not only learn to prepare for it, but to leverage it. So Meridith is a business growth expert, keynote speaker, and award-winning author. In fact, she was named one of the top 15 business growth experts to watch by Currency Fair, and one of the top 20 sales experts to follow by LinkedIn. So we have someone who clearly knows a lot about what they're sharing. So we're excited to have you, Meridith. Thanks so much for being here.
I'm looking forward to it. This is my favorite topic.
Yes, yeah, it's definitely one that I think we're all thinking about. In fact, when we were originally supposed to do this podcast, you encountered a bit of uncertainty yourself with the gas shortage. So, do these principles hold relevance for your personal life as well?
Yeah, in fact, when I wrote the book, I was writing it completely from a business perspective. But when I finished writing the stories and the formula, I started to think, wow, uncertainty doesn't end when we leave the office at 5 o'clock. It permeates our personal lives. People facing the Great Depression had to go home and deal with, how do you find food to put on the table? What do you do with, family members that don't have a job? So I applied the strategy to your personal life. So absolutely, uncertainty impacts us in so many ways. But if we can see the opportunity on it, it can be, to use your words, one of the greatest things we can leverage for growth and for success.
Yeah, and there is a chapter on application. Like, although this is largely for for business growth and business innovation, there's a whole chapter on applying it to personal life as well, which I found very useful. As a mother in the pandemic, with virtual school and everything else, we all need to learn how to handle that. So you are very clear in the book that somebody's beliefs are about uncertainty matter just as much as the actions they take in response to it. Why is this the case? Why do our beliefs matter just as much, if not more, than the steps we take to respond?
Yeah, and I think they do matter more. I mean, to me, they're very much the foundation. One of the biggest breakthroughs I feel for me when writing the book was that success isn't logical. It doesn't follow a path. It's not about having a better product, having better resources, having better luck, being better educated. It isn't about any of those things. It's about what you choose to focus on. And what I think is so powerful about that is that I just told you that the one thing you need to be successful in an uncertain marketplace, you have 100% control over. It's not easy, but you can choose what you focus on. So mindset and your beliefs, how you think about uncertainty, the very foundation. In fact, I don't believe any of the other strategies will work without it.
Yeah, that's so interesting. And one of the things that I found just incredibly useful for helping shape my beliefs about uncertainty were the uncertainty timelines that you provide in the early portion of the book. So you take us through all of these different crises that have happened in American history that have affected American business, from the Civil War on to, the COVID-19 pandemic. What can be gained from viewing uncertainty as cyclical? Because I know I took a lot away from that, but I'm hoping you can speak to that as well.
Yeah, the first part of the book is called A History Lesson You'll Love. And I remember a few years back, I was hanging out with some friends, and, I feel like we're all reaching the age like our parents where we think the world is just going down a tube, what's wrong with everything. And we were talking about just the fact that we're going through economic upheaval, society upheaval, religious upheaval, industry upheaval. And it just made me think, I thought, well, I bet we do this every 50 to 60 years. I bet every generation has thought that the world was going to explode and blow up. And so I just started to track, just how many things you think about. You said the Civil War, you've had the Great Depression, we've had world wars, we had a pandemic in, 1918. And there's something oddly calming about the fact that you see we've been here before. In fact, this is normal. Then there's something very motivating and inspiring when the other part of what we tracked was just how many breakthroughs from inventions to technology to medicine that came out of those very challenging times, which sets the premise for the book. I'm not sure you can really innovate without uncertainty. And until that pain gets bad enough, I'm not sure those breakthroughs would ever happen.
Yeah, that's so interesting to think about. I mean, it's so often the case that failure or difficulty or challenges are what give rise to the greatest moments of innovation. I think of Alexander Graham Bell, who was trying to invent a device to be used with deaf students for learning to speak. And the tool itself wasn't successful, but it's what gave him inspiration for the telephone. So, so often it's, the little things, but also these big catastrophic, world-changing events that if we learn to look at the right way, can be such a source of inspiration and insight. But there was an interesting trend that happened during this past year, and a word that was used often, and that's pivoting, which I think has both positive uses and perhaps negative uses as well. But I was hoping that we could think maybe about pivoting, like when can pivoting be something that is harmful to an organization? And I think of your principle, be relentless about your vision. Like when is pivoting something, when is that impetus harmful to our purposes in business?
Yeah, what a great question, because it is. So there's two things I think that really boils down about pivoting is early on, I just started to do surveys with customers or people that follow me on social media. And I would ask the question, when uncertainty hits, are you somebody who runs to the sound of the gunfire and takes action, or are you somebody who takes a wait and see approach? Most people take more of a wait and see approach. But for those people who run to the sound of the gunfire and take action, I went a little deeper with them. And even though it can be seen as a positive that you move, that you're ready to do something, the problem is people are pivoting without any plan, or without any strategy, or without any thought about where they're going. And you end up in as bad a situation as people who got stuck. So pivoting can be a bad thing. It can really be harmful when you don't know why you're pivoting, what you're pivoting for, or if the pivot is right for you. There's two principles in the book that help you pivot correctly. And the first is the one you mentioned, that you have to have a relentless vision. You've got to know where you're headed, where you see your company when this pandemic is over. The other, I almost found more powerful, was that the way that every company I researched made decisions in the middle of uncertainty, whatever that was, is they made it according to their core values. It's difficult to make decisions when you have no idea where the economy is going, where your industry is going, where anything is going. But when you know your core values, you use them like a litmus test and a North Star. If the decision aligns with your core values, it's the right decision for you. If it doesn't, you let it go. So if you're going to pivot, make sure that that pivot is aligned with your vision and aligned with your core values. If you don't, story after story, it will knock you off track.
That's such great advice, because as you mentioned, that's the only thing you can really hold on to is an anchor, because we just don't know. Even when there's not some catastrophic event going on, there's still plenty of areas of uncertainty. And so those organizations that don't know their values and don't hold to them, if they do, are the ones that we see, passing out of currency. And the evergreen companies are the ones that really stick to their values. I love a lot of the organizations that you mentioned in this book, which is incredibly useful. There are all these case studies, so you can get a really deep sense of how specific companies have responded to uncertainty and used it to help them thrive. Like King Arthur Flour, which is a company that I love and have used for so long. Just, it was the opportunity to use lesser ingredients or take other means, but they just stuck to their values in providing, really quality ingredients, and, have managed to thrive all of these years. There's so many examples of that too. So you did this massive research study with the Center of Generational Kinetics, and the study is available on Meridith's website, I believe still.
Yes.
And the findings inform the principles in the book as well. And one of the findings, I'll read it here, that interested me. I'm always interested in generational things as an old millennial. You say the most important qualities of a team that looks at change proactively vary dramatically by generation. For older millennials, it's a team of strong communicators and good listeners. For Gen X, it's a team that's engaging. And for boomers, it's a team that views change as an opportunity, embraces reality, and asks for and accepts feedback. And I can see that, in my own experience. I'm wondering, do you have any thoughts about the qualities that will be useful for younger millennials and Gen Zers who are now, entering the workforce in larger numbers? How do you think that they, what are the values that matter to them in handling change proactively? Do you have any sense of that yet?
Yeah, in fact, quite a bit. And it's a challenge because I think we've sort of created the perfect storm. Typically leaders are given the ability to be developed and grown. So when it's time for them to lead a company, they're prepared for whatever that company may face. But here's the problem. When the crash happened in 2008, we were ready for boomers to leave the marketplace. But they didn't leave because one, their retirement was threatened, and B, their company was threatened. So they came back in and they held on so tightly, and it became very tell direct, not developing the leaders up under. I mean, the economy was in a bad state, so we couldn't allow for failure. And we lost about 10 years of really developing that next level of leader. That's why in the study it came out that the people most fearful to lead in uncertain times are older millennials. And the reason they are is because it's them in the leadership seat right now, and they have not been prepared. I think the qualities that we're really seeing that the younger generations want is they want to be a part of things. They want a voice. They want to be heard. They want to be part of the conversation. And so my advice to leaders today is learn to lead through the power of the question. Take every stress that you have to accomplish. We've got to be more productive. We have to save on resources. We have to develop new products. I don't care what it is. Throw it out to the team, ask for their ideas, and ask for their input. Because employees want to be part of something, and you've got to allow them in to be a part of the process. The beauty of it is by being part of the process, they're going to learn to think. And as they learn to think, they're going to be strategically ready to lead.
Yeah, that's really great insight. And I would totally agree, having worked with younger millennials and Gen Zers as well, and having taught them as well. I teach a business class.
Okay.
And yes, just, they want to be heard. That's just absolutely accurate. They also want a really strong company culture, which is another point that you mentioned in your book. Do you have any sense of what the next generation of workers are looking for in terms of company culture, since that is something that can make or break a company during times of change?
Yeah, what I love about that is that what they're really looking for are the cultures of the companies of old. If you look at the companies we've researched in the book, they stood for something. You brought up King Arthur Flour, and the way that King Arthur Flour got their name is that one of the original founders had gone to see, the Knights of the Round Table, and was just so impressed with how those knights stood by their values, and they were all about their principles. So these younger generations want to be part of companies that aren't just making good products, they're making a difference. They're about really elevating and believing that if you care for your community, if you care for your team, if you care for your customers, that's how you grow. Well, that may sound like new values to younger generations, but it's the way business used to be done. It's back in the age of Main Street. So I think it's truly a time for the mom and pop businesses, for the smaller businesses who live and breathe their values, to really put their culture front and foremost. The other thing is the younger generations they want to be trained and they want to be developed. They want to be invested in.
Mhm.
I think one of the things that's most misunderstood about them is that everybody thinks they come to the table and they have all these ideas, so they're know-it-alls. Well, sure, they have a lot of ideas, but they also want to learn and they're willing to learn. You just need to invest in them and create a path for them. So they will invest in cultures that invest in them.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's really great advice. So my last question relates to, I think, the thing that's hardest for me personally, and I think that so many of us struggle with, and I know leaders do as well. The thing that can probably undercut us the most when we're responding to uncertainty is our emotions.
Yeah.
How can we manage our emotions about uncertainty so that we can look at our organizations more objectively and respond in a more productive way, make smarter decisions as a result?
Yeah, we all struggle with dealing with the emotions of uncertainty. There's a lot of fear, out there. I mean, your business, your life, so much is really on the line. The first thing I would say is don't deny them. Don't act like you don't have them, because if you ignore emotions, they're going to beat you up and they will always win. They are like an ocean and a riptide. If you do not embrace them, they will beat you to a pulp. But there's a couple of tools that we use that really help you manage things. And I use these with a lot of my clients. When you are feeling overwhelmed, when you are feeling fearful, do a brain dump. Get everything that you're worried out. I'm worried that my employees won't come back. I'm worried that we're not going to have enough customers. I'm worried that if there's a gas shortage or taxes go up, I can't keep the business afloat. Get it all out. Make a list of all of it. And then divide it into stacks of what you can control and what you can't control. And then, because once you release everything you're worried about, there's an odd calm that comes over you. You've spoken it, you've gotten it out. And then turn your direction back to what you can control. Always remember, you don't take anything else from this interview. Success isn't logical. It comes down to what you focus on. So you do the brain dump to release the fear. And then you go back and ask yourself, if what I'm focused on today, can I control it? And if I can't, let it go and move on to the things that you can. I don't know why this works, but by focusing on what you can control, it pulls you. Somehow you find your way through the madness. I kind of likened it to a riptide a moment ago, but if you think of it like this, if you get into a riptide, your inclination is to fight. And we all know that if you get into a riptide and you fight, even if you're an Olympic swimmer, it will beat you up and could even drown you. Mm-hmm. But if you relax into it and say, I'm going to go where this riptide is taking me, it takes you on this beautiful ride and spits you out somewhere you had no idea you could go. Uncertainty is the exact same way. So you do that, focus on what you can control, do the exercise as much as you need to, and you're going to be able to conquer your fears, put your energy, resources, and time where it matters, and that's what's going to carry you through.
Wow, that's really powerful. Well, thank you so much, Meridith, for sharing and for being here with us today. Again, pre-order her book, Thrive, Strategies to Turn Uncertainty to Competitive Advantage. It's an incredibly useful resource for leaders of all levels, organizations, business owners, and individuals as well, who are looking to apply these principles to their own life in managing uncertainty. I know I found a lot of resonance as well. So this is coming June 22nd, but you can pre-order it now, Kindle or ebook, paperback, and hardcover as well. So get a bunch for your organization. It'll be just a really useful tool. So thanks again, Meridith, for being here.
Thank you so much.